What up? Winbush here, and today I'm excited to show you guys how we can take our custom motion capture data and mix it with the Mixamo data to come up with some interesting animations. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So as you can see here, this is me inside of the Rokoko suit. I'm using my laptop to actually record all of my movements and everything because I needed to be in my living room to be able to pull off the stunt that I want to pull off. And so essentially, I couldn't find this type of animation inside of Rokoko. Like I wanted to look at the camera, tell the viewer, hey, come on, let's go, like follow me. And then I wanted to turn and jump like I'm jumping off the building. So I actually have an air mattress, which I inflated inside of my living room so that I could actually pull off this stunt like I'm looking at the camera, say, hey, let's go. Turn around, run, and jump right into my air mattress. And so that gives me the beginning of the animation that I want to use. And then from there, like as you can see, actually when I hit the air mattress, I bounce because, you know, it is inflated. And so I wanted to be able to pull off the flying animation right after that. So originally I thought maybe I could lay on a chair and maybe do the flying animation that way. But then I started to look into the Mixamo library and I saw they actually had like a flying animation where you can actually have your arms like extended to your side or out in front of you like Superman. So I thought it'd be cool to try to experiment and see if I could blend these two animations together. So in this part here, I'm on my laptop because this is where I recorded all my stuff from Rokoko Studio. So if we look at the playback here, you can see me, I'm pushing on the laptop, I'm getting back into place. I look at the camera, I say, hey, let's go. And then I start to skip, jump, and I run into the mattress. And I did about 4 takes there that I liked. But if I go to take 1, this is the one I actually used for my animation here, in which you can see that I only took out a little segment here. So I run, jump, I hit the air mattress, and then that's all I wanted to take from that recording. So to be able to pull just this little section out here, let me actually go back to take 2 so I can show you guys how to do this from scratch. So I'm going to stop the animation here. Let's just say I wanted to take it from here. So I'm going to hold down the shift key on my keyboard, lift, click, and drag. And that brings up the segment marker there. So if I just click and hold the shift key down again, and drag left and right, I can extend it to anywhere I want it to go. And then also if I click on the end here, same thing. So that's how I'm able to take out a short segment that I want to bring out. I'm going to go back to take 1, and this is the segment that I want to take out. So once you're happy with the data that you want to export, I'm going to come over to my take 1. I'm actually going to hit right click and I'm going to export. So the cool thing about Rokoko Studio is we're able to export out a variety of different skeletons, in which Mixamo is a piece of that, which makes this all come together. So right here where it says Maya HK, I'm going to select this, and I'm actually going to come down to Mixamo and select that. And then I'm going to come over to FBX, and it gives us a whole bunch of different attributes in here that we can select from. I'm just going to do body skeleton. It already has that selected by default. And then I'm going to include the body mesh on here as well. And under version, I'm just going to leave it on 2016. And then for where I want to export it, I'm going to click here, maybe just save it to my desktop here and click OK. So this is the settings that I used for my demonstration here. I'm actually going to hit export, let this export out. And there we go. So if I pull down into my desktop here, you can see that it made a folder right here called scene 1. If I double click on that, it brings up this little segment here. So if I double click on this, it should play back on my Windows 10 here. And there we go. So this is the animation that I could bring into Cinema 4D so that I can start blending this stuff together. So the next step from here is I'm going to get my character that I have inside of Cinema 4D prepped up to be exported out to Mixamo. So this is Cinema 4D. I'm using version S24 right now. This is the character that I'm using in my animation. I have some really simple materials on here just to make sure that everything exports out correctly to Mixamo, because sometimes you have some problems whenever it's doing the auto rigging. So if I double click on it, you can see that all I have is a color node in here and nothing else. And I just try to make it as simple as possible for when I export out the Mixamo. And then once I get everything rigged up in Mixamo and I bring it back into Cinema or even Unreal Engine, that's when I start to retexture everything up. So this is my character. As I was saying, I'm just going to select everything here. Then actually down here, my timeline, I'm going to make that 0. I just like making the timeline very short. Then I'm going to come over to File, and I'm going to come down to Export, and then I'm going to export as a FBX. So if I drag my export setting over here to the middle, for file format, I'm going to leave it at version 7.5, which goes all the way up to 2018. I have selection only selected because I selected everything that I want to export out. but it looks like everything is pretty good here, except for animation. I want to click that off. Even though I put it at 0 on my timeline, I'm still going to click that off just in case. And then I'm going to leave everything else as is. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm just going to leave it named character build. So I'm going to hit save. And now we have an FBX. So if I pull open my folder, and there we go. So he's right here, and now he's ready to set to be brought into Mixamo. So now I have Adobe Mixamo open. Just go to mixamo.com to bring this up. And over on my right hand side, I'm going to click on upload character. Then I'm going to pull back open my folder where I have my FBX that I brought over for Cinema 4D. I'm going to click and drag that into here and let this upload. So now that that's finished uploading, we have our character in here. And so I'm going to click on the next, and then I'm going to bring these over and just bring them to where they correlate on my character. So my chin, I'm just going to bring it over to my chin here. And then for the wrist, I'm just going to bring it over like so. Same thing for the elbow, bring it into about there. Then for the knee area, click and drag it right there. Then for the groin area, click and drag it right there. And then for a skeletal LOD, I'm going to leave it as standard, use symmetry. I'm just going to click next and wait for it to auto rig. And there we go. So we have our character. He's all rigged up in Mixamo. You can see him moving around and everything. So if everything looks good to you, you just click next. Then I'm going to click next again. And we should see him in the character builder here. So from here, what I'm going to do is come over to search, and I'm actually going to type in T and hit enter, because that's going to bring up the TPose animation for us. So I'm going to click on this, and that gives us our TPose there. I'm going to leave all these attributes as is. Then I'm just going to click on download. And then from here, for frames per second, I'm actually going to put it on 60. I mean, it's only a TPose, but I like keeping everything consistent with the frame rate that I'm going to be working in. Then I'm going to leave everything else as is. And then I'm going to click on download. Then I'm going to come over here. Depending on your web browser, this might pop up, it might not, but I'm just going to click file save. So now that we have our TPose, I'm actually going to go into the Mixamo character library and look for some flying animations here. So if I come back over here to the search bar, I'm going to delete the T, and I'm actually going to type in flying. Then if I scroll down, on mine is coming up on the second row. So if I click on this, you can see that we have our character in here. He's actually flying off the screen. So what I did was I clicked on this right here where it says in place, and now we have our character just flying in place. And so over here on the right hand side, we have a whole bunch of different attributes that we can select. Like for awareness, if I want him to really look around, slide this up. Now you can see he's looking all around and everything. For legs, if I wanted to move in a little bit more, you just click it like that. Then for arms, if I wanted to do the Superman, you know, bring it all the way up to 100. If I wanted to have him like look like a bird, maybe like a gliding bird, something like that, slide it down to 50%. So what I ended up doing for mine, because whenever I leaped onto the air mattress there, I actually had my arms to my side. So for my arms right here, I actually have it at 0. And this is going to be for my initial one. And I don't have my character look around as much. So these are the attributes that I used for my initial one. So what I do from here is I actually click download, make sure I'm at 60 FPS, and then I'm going to download again. And then I'm going to come over here and click save and just save it to wherever it's going to save to. And so I knew that I wanted this animation to extend out for a certain period of time, but I didn't want it to be just boring with him with his arms to the side and looking straight. And so I ended up saving out another animation where I brought my awareness up to 100. And then I have my arms pointing out like so. So whenever he's flying through the air, he actually will bring his arms from the side and extend up front. And so with these attributes, again, I'm going to click download, and then I'm going to save it again. Now, the reason that I saved out all these different variations, because once I start bringing this into Cinema 4D to merge together, I can actually have my flying character move into a bunch of different poses, so that's not the same monotonous pose throughout the animation. So inside of Cinema 4D, I'm actually going to close out this previous character that I had built, and then I'm going to come down into my folder, and I'm going to pull up my FBX folder where I have everything saved out. So I have my TPose here, and then I have my animation from Rokoko Studio, and then I have my 3 different flying variations from Mixamo. So I'm going to start off by clicking and dragging my TPose into Cinema 4D, in which I have my character here now. So I like starting inside of a fresh project every time I start something up, and I know I'm going to merge it together. And so what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to select everything in here. Then I'm going to come over to object, and I'm going to group the object. I'm just going to name this one TPose. Then I'm going to come over to edit and copy. Then I'm going to come over to file, come down to new project, and now I have a new project here. So if I hit Control D on my keyboard, that's going to bring up my project attributes down here in the lower right hand side. So for FPS, I'm actually going to make this 60. Then down here, I'm going to maybe make this like 600. And then I'm going to come over to edit and paste in my TPose. So my next step from here is I want to connect this character into my Rokoko Studio animation that I exported out. So again, I'm going to come down to my folder, come down to my Rokoko Studio FBX here, drag that into Cinema 4D, click OK. And then this brings in my Rokoko Studio stuff. So same process, I'm going to select both of these, click on Object, come down to Group Object, and I'm just going to name this one Takeoff. And if I click on play, you can see this is my takeoff animation, which looks good to me. So I'm going to select this, come down to Edit and Copy. Then I'm going to come over here to Window, and then I'm going to select this one that says Untitled 3 because this is my first project. Then I'm going to hit Edit and I'm going to paste it in here, which now you can see my Rokoko Studio character is in here. So I'm going to actually come over to File and save project as, come to my C4D folder, and I'm just going to name this one Tutorial. Just in case anything happens, make sure I back up my project here. And there we go. So I'm going to actually take my takeoff character, bring him over to the right a little bit, just so we can see what's going on here. And I'm actually going to attach this character to my TPose character. And so in order to do that, I'm going to click on my TPose character. I'm going to come over here to tags, and then I'm going to come down here to rigging tags. And so this is new. I believe this happened in maybe S22, but we now have this tag called character definition. So if I click on this, let me drag this over a little bit. We should see down here in the attributes panel, we have our character definition tag, in which it has like this little stick figure person attached inside your hierarchy window here. But if I click on open manager, now this brings up our hierarchy window for a skeletal mesh. So all I have to do is hit extract skeleton, and it's automatically going to detect all the skeletal meshes. It works really well with Mixamo skeletons, and that's why I use it. And so I'm actually going to exit this out and do the same thing for my takeoff. So if I select on tag, come down to rigging tags, and the same thing, character definition, I'm going to open up the manager, come over to extract skeleton, and it does the same thing. So these two skeletons should coordinate because they're both Mixamo skeletons. So if I come back down here to my TPose, click on my character definition, and I'm actually going to create solver, and that's going to allow me to take my character stick figure from up here on my takeoff and drag it down here under source character. So now if I click play, you can see now our Rokoko skeleton is attached to my TPose character. So if I scroll around here, you can see exactly what's going on. And there we go. Boom. I hit the air mattress and fall down. So I'm actually going to go to takeoff, and I'm going to select my Mixamo skeletal mesh just because I want to see exactly where this ends at. So it looks like it ends around 316. I'm actually going to shorten this down. So what's happening right now, my Rocket Man, he's getting the information brought to him through the character definition tag from the Rokoko animation, but it's not going to be baked in. And so the next step from here is I'm going to save out my TPose character as another FBX so that I have those keyframes baked in. And then from there, I can actually bring in my Mixamo data to start blending them together. So I'm going to stop this play animation here. And then I'm going to select this TPose character, make sure I have everything selected in here. So I only want to select my TPose character that I have here and all the stuff in here, because if I come over to File, come down to Export, and then I'm going to export out an FBX. And this time I am going to bring in the animation tracks, and then I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to maybe select this right here, and let's name this one Character Baked, so that I know this is the character that I'm going to have on my keyframes baked into. So this is something that I just figured out to be able to merge this stuff with my Mixamo animations, because now if I start a new project and I go back to my folder here and I look for that character baked one, if I bring this into my project here, you can see our character is in our TPose, but if I click play, now he has all those keyframes baked in. So if I come down, select the Mixamo hip and everything, you can see that we actually have all the keyframes in there. So if I go back to my other project there, let me see what it was called. And if I click on my TPose, the Mixamo skeletal here, you can see it has no keyframes in there at all. So that's my trick to basically be able to bring in baked keyframes so that we can actually, for our next step, start merging it with our Mixamo characters. So again, I'm just going to copy this, start a new project again. Then I'm just going to paste it in here, hit Control D, make that 60 frames per second, make this like 600 frames. Then let's say 60, like so. So now that I have my character in here like this, next step from here is bringing in our Mixamo data. So I'm going to go back to my folder, come down to my first flying here. I'm going to click and drag this into here. And as you can see, we have our character flying like so. It's about 175 frames. So I'm going to go back to the beginning here. Then I'm going to select all these, come over to object, and I'm going to group it. And I'm just going to name this one flying intro. And I'm going to select this, copy it, come back to my other project here that I have my TPose in, and let me save this one. And I'm just going to name this one merged animations. And I know it could get a little bit crazy in here with the way that I have this all set up. So I'm trying to go as frame by frame as possible so you guys can follow along. But from here, I'm going to click edit, come down to paste, and now you can see that we have our two characters in here. So if I click on play, you can see both of these animations playing at the same time. But what I want to do is I want to merge these two animations together. So what I'm going to do is click on my TPose one, and actually let me hold down the Alt key, double click here just to hide that for right now. I'm actually going to come over to animate, and then I'm going to come down to add motion clip. So from here, I'm going to leave everything as is, and I'm just going to click OK. So if I click on open timeline, it's going to bring our timeline up here. It might be easier to see under layout. If I go under animate, you can see it's a lot better laid out here. I can actually drag this over, give us a little bit more space here. So if I actually play through this, you can see it made a motion clip for that animation there. So I'm going to do the same thing for my flying intro animation. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key, click on this to bring it back in. I'm going to click on flying intro. I'm going to come over to animate, and then I'm going to add a motion clip. Just click OK. And now I added a motion clip to this as well. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key, left click to bring this out, just to hide it a little bit. Then come back down here to my original motion clip. You can see down here in the lower left-hand corner, it actually made a motion clip for the flying intro. So let me actually click right here on the right-hand side. I'm going to left click and drag just to give us a little bit more space. Then if I hold down the Alt key, middle click on my mouse and drag it over to the left like so. So I'm just going to click and drag this into here. And then I'm going to drag my flying intro motion clip over here. So now if I play through this, you can see that, let me pull back in my viewport a little bit. So we have our character, he runs, he jumps, and then it brings him into that other animation there. But as you can see, it brings them all the way back to the start position. So from here, what I'm going to do is actually select the motion clip. And then right here under this hierarchy window here, you're going to have these different tabs pop up. You want to be under the advanced. Then I'm going to click create pivot. And then right now it says TPose pivot. But if I select it and pull it up, you can see that I'm actually moving my character here. So instead of TPose pivot, I'm just going to name this one pivot flying intro, so I know what is what, like so. So you can see we have some ghost up here as well that's kind of simulating our skeleton. So what I'm going to try to do is just align my pivot to where it needs to be. And this kind of helps too. It kind of shows you how the animation is going to be with that skeletal ghost. So it's just all about kind of aligning it. Like if I move my pivot back a little bit, you can see now it moved back there. So I'm going to hit Control Z, and it looks like it's actually in a good place there. And so I don't like that initial bounce animation that we have in there. So let me scroll through my timeline. Let's say about there is where I want to start merging my other stuff in there. So I'm going to have to come down to my motion clip down here and actually right click, and you'll have a little button here that says cut connect. I'm going to click on this, and that brings up like these little scissors. So if I click on this, and there you go. So now I actually split my motion clip here, in which I have to right click again, select cut and connect, and that brings up my arrow. and I can actually select this, delete it, and now I could just drag this motion clip in the hair. So now if I let this play through, there we go. So he's waving, he jumps, and he kind of, yeah, he jumps right into the animation there. There we go. So that's pretty cool. So now let's say that I'm happy with how that animation is, and I want to put him into the Superman pose, which we're going to go through the same exact steps here. So let me come over to my layout, come back over to startup, and then I'm going to come down to my folder. But if I click and drag it into Cinema 4D, click OK. Now I have my Superman pose here, in which I'm going to select all of these, come over to Objects, come down to Group Objects, and I'm just going to actually name this one Superman. Like so. Then I'm just going to edit, come down to Copy, come over to Window, and I'm going to find my Merged Animations project, which is right here. Then I'm going to come over to Edit and just paste it in, and you can see we have Superman back there. So I'm actually going to bring everything to frame 0. I'm going to hold down the Alt key. I'm just going to select this, left select so it disappears. Then I'm going to click on Superman. Then I'm going to come over to Animate, come down to Add Motion Clip. I'm going to click OK. And now I should have a motion clip for this as well. So I'm going to come back over to Layout, come down to Animate, and there you go. We can see down here in the lower left-hand side, we have a motion clip for Superman. So I'm going to click and drag that in here. Just going to drag it over so we have our transitioning happen. So if you can see, bam, it moves into the Superman pose, but he goes back to 0, 0, 0. So same thing. I'm going to make sure I have my motion clip selected here. I'm going to come over here to the Advanced tab, click Create Pivot. Then I'm just going to drag my pivot all the way up here to where I believe he should be. Then if I scroll through here, there we go. So let me move this up a tad bit maybe. It looks like he's moving over a little bit as well. So let me move this over like so. So there we go. So now we have a smooth animation there. I'm going to come over to Layout, come back down to Startup, and let's just play this through to see how everything looks. And before that, if we don't want to see all these different skeletal ghosts here because it's starting to get messy, all we have to do is come over to Filter, come down here to where it says Ghosting, clip on this, and that makes that all go away. So again, I'm going to click Play. And there we go. So that's exactly how I made that animation happen. So if you wanted to bring this into something like, say, Unreal, we want to actually merge all these frames into one so we don't have a mess when we bring it into Unreal Engine. So I'm going to come over to Layout, come down to Animate, then I'm going to select all my motion clips here because I actually want to merge these into one giant motion clip. So from here, I'm going to come over to Motion Systems, come down to Bake Clips, and actually it's going to make it all into one clip now, in which that clip is called TPose because that's the initial motion clip name. But if I just click play here, you can see everything is playing out how we want it. So you want to make sure that your animation is everywhere you want it to be before you do this. And let's see, it goes up to 519 frames. So I'm going to select 519. And there we go. So now we should have our final animation. So if I want to come up here to Layout, come under Standard, I'm actually going to select my T-pose, select everything underneath here because this is all I want to export out. So I'm going to come over to File, come down here to Export FBX. And then I'm going to leave everything as is. I want to make sure I have selection only selected because I only want to export everything here. And then animation, make sure I have tracks, baked all animation. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm just going to name this one Final Animation. Click Save. And then I'm just going to double check to make sure everything exported out as it should be. So I'm going to come back to my folder, find Final Animation, click and drag it, hit OK. Let me scroll back a little bit and let me hit play inside my timeline. So here we go. He's waving. He's going to jump into his animation, and there we go. So now we have everything on one character, all baked into one track with all the keyframes. And so from here, it should be easy to say, like, bring it in the Unreal Engine, what I did for my animation, and it should be all cohesive with one character and one baked track of animation. So this next part is going to be a bonus just for my people that are using Unreal Engine. I'm actually going to show you guys Unreal Engine 5, which is in early access right now, but I'm going to start a project in Unreal Engine 5, bring this animation into there, and show you that it should play back absolutely fine. So right here, I have Unreal Engine 5 opened up. I'm inside my Unreal project browser. I'm going to just select a random drive here, maybe my M.2, select folder, and I'm going to name this project Flying. I'm going to come down here to film, video, and live events, start a blank one, and then just hit create. Okay, so this is Unreal Engine 5. I'm just going to click update here in the lower right. If I selected my viewport, hold down control, hit spacebar, that's going to bring up our content browser here. So I'm actually going to right click, make a new folder, just name this one character, double select this, and there we go. So from here, I should be able to go to my Windows Explorer, click my final animation, just click and drag that into Unreal Engine. It's going to bring up our FBX import settings here, in which I want to come down here to animation, click import animation, and then for animation length, just click exported time. Then that should be it there. So I'm going to click import all. And then for my message log, I'm just going to close this out, bring back up my content drawer. And I can see that everything looks like it's in here now. So if I select this, bring it in here, and if you didn't see that, again, it's the one that has the purple bar in here. So I selected that, brought that into my scene. If I select this, let me drag this out a little bit, make everything at 0, maybe select them up a little bit like so. So now I have my character inside of Unreal Engine. If I come over here under animations, I can actually have this just play as if it's in like the game view. So under animation mode, I'm going to use animation asset. And then right here where it says animation to play, I'm going to click on none. Then I'm going to click on this one here. And it looks like he went back down. So what I'm going to do is actually just rotate him so he's right side up. So I believe it's the red one here. So I'm going to bring him at a 90-degree angle, drag him up a little bit there. Then right here where it says play, I'm just going to click on play. And there we go. So now I have my character animated inside of Unreal Engine 5. So that's very cool that we have our animation playing back nice and smooth inside of Unreal Engine 5. So from there, you would basically just build your environment as I did, like a city environment. I textured my character all inside of Unreal Engine 5. And yeah, that should be about it. So that's exactly how I took my animations that I did in my Rokoko suit, blend that with the Adobe Mixamo animations, made a really nice and cool animation sequence, brought it into Unreal Engine, and called it a day. So hopefully this helped you guys out. This is a little bit longer of a tutorial than I usually like to do, but there was a lot of steps in there that I needed to make this work out. So if you did find this useful, make sure you leave me a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave me a big thumbs up if this did help. And until next time, stay fresh, keep creating, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'll see you soon. Take care. What up, Winbush here.